Hey everybody, welcome back to My Wings of Refuge. I'm so excited today. One of my absolute favorite things on earth is salsa. And so I have 24 tomato plants planted, most of which are Romas. I do have some beef steak, and I also have some Cherokee purples or blacks or whatever. And so I have here my tomatoes, and we're going to get ready with a batch today. So these beautiful tomatoes you see here, most of which are the Romas. But I also have here one of my beautiful Cherokee blacks. I think they're blacks. And so what I'm going to do now, these are all washed and ready. I'm going to cut them in half, cut the tops off of them. If there is a bad spot or anything, some of them, have the little cracks in the tops. I'll cut that part off. I'm going to cut them in half, and I'm going to lay them on a baking sheet, and we're going to broil them in the oven just until the skins start to char just a little bit, so we can take the skins off really easy to make a fire roasted salsa. So our tomatoes are fresh out of the oven, and they're beautiful and lightly charred. So I've let them cool for a few minutes, and now all I'm going to do is go through and peel all of the skins off, and we'll be ready to get started. Much better. These come off really easy, and I'm putting the tomato right inside the blender or the food processor. Okay, so all of our tomatoes are blended up really well. They're chopped in the food processor, and I have them ready. I did weigh them, and I have about 6 pounds here of tomatoes. For 5 pounds of tomatoes, you would usually use anywhere from 3 to 5 onions. So I have 6 pounds. This really doesn't matter. It's all to taste at this point. So I'm going to use 4 onions. So I'm just going to dice them up a little bit, and I'm going to put them in the food processor and let them blend really well and dump them into my tomatoes. Okay, so next we want to add garlic. I like a lot of garlic. Some people say 3 to 5 cloves of garlic. It's garlic to taste. I like a lot of garlic. Don't judge me. So next we're going to add cilantro. Fresh, beautiful cilantro. Again, it's to taste. So some people don't like the taste of cilantro. Some people absolutely love it. I love it, and so I'm going to add it to taste. I'm going to add it to taste, but I'm going to chop it up a little bit, and I'm going to add it to the garlic in our food processor. So our next ingredient is jalapenos. Different people will add different peppers. You can add your favorite pepper. If jalapenos are too spicy for you, you can add poblanos or bell peppers or something else of that nature. I like jalapenos. If you're a little afraid of the spice, you can also take the seeds out. But I'm going to cut these up, dice them up, and also put them in my food processor. Right now in the food processor I have my garlic and cilantro. Then I'm going to add the peppers. The cilantro doesn't blend really well unless you mix it with a few other things, and then it'll blend really good. It smells divine. And so here I added the cilantro in with our jalapenos and also the garlic. And so I'm going to now add them into our onions and tomatoes. Now we're going to give it a good stir. And we want to be able to taste it before we consider it finished. It's already looking fantastic and it smells so good. Now it's time to sample it and see what else needs to be added. Okay, so I am ready now to turn up the heat, and we're going to heat this for about 30 minutes. It's really not too liquidy, so I just want to make sure it's really good and hot, piping hot, while my jars here are going to be boiling too, because I want to give them at least 15 minutes boiling time, and that way they'll be nice and sterilized, and we'll get them out when it's really hot and do a proper water bath canning system. So don't you worry, all those tomato skins that came off of our tomatoes, we're not going to let them go to waste. I'm going to lay these skins out nice and thin layers on a dehydrator sheet, and I'm going to dehydrate them on a low temperature in my dehydrator anywhere from 6 to 18 hours until they're nice and crispy, and then we'll turn them into some beautiful tomato powder. Okay, so we've got our peels in the dehydrator. We have our water bath canner is starting to really bubble in there, so I've turned the heat on for our salsa, and I'm going to bring it to a boil, and I'm going to let it then simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. Our salsa is starting to boil. We'll let it rumble a little more, and then we'll cut it back just a little bit to keep it at a light simmer for about 20 minutes. We also have our lids here. We're just going to keep them on a medium heat, just a very light little bubble, that's all it needs. We just want them to stay nice and hot and ready to go on our jars. Make sure it's nice and piping hot, and we'll be ready to pour it into our hot jars. Okay, so it's been time for our salsa. It's nice and hot. Our jars have been ready for some time now. So I'm just going to get my jars out, and while they're nice and hot, I'm going to fill them with a 1/2 inch headspace of our salsa. And then we'll put our flat lids on, our rings finger tight, put them back in the canner. Remember to start your timer as soon as it's coming to a hard boil. We're going to put the lid on and set our timer for 20 minutes. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes in our water bath canner. I turned the heat off, and I'm just going to take off this lid, and I'm going to let them cool down and just kind of rest here for about 5 minutes or so, just till the water just kind of settles, and then we'll pull them out. I'm just going to lift them up. and then lift them out. That gorgeous! We're gonna let them sit here and just completely cool before we do any messing with them. We'll just let those sit and cool. We really don't want to mess with them. We'll be listening for the jars to ping, 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 ping. That beautiful noise canners always look forward to, but I can tell some of the jars are already dented in already. And so we'll sit there, let them just rest for 24 hours before we mess with them. At the end of 24 hours, we'll check the lids to make sure they're all sealed. If they're not sealed, we'll store them in the refrigerator and eat them sooner. So